Hey everybody, KCC's here with Lucid Books, and I'm here today with my friend Jeremy Taliaferro, who is a missionary in Uganda. And I want to let Jeremy just tell a little bit about himself. Jeremy, thanks so much for joining with me today. And why don't you go ahead and just share a little bit about yourself and your ministry?
Thanks, Casey. It's good to be here, man. So my wife and I have been serving on the field now for 18 years. We first served about 10 years in the Amazon, working with the International Mission Board, doing church planting there, and leading teams, discipling a bunch of young people that we worked alongside of. And then after 10 years there, the Lord called us here to Africa. We're currently in Uganda. And we worked with a remote tribe for about 5 years. And right now we find ourselves working with refugees. I've got 4 children, 3 biological kids, and a young man named Daniel, who we are in the process of adopting. My wife is from New Mexico. I'm from Texas. I grew up just outside of Fort Worth and haven't been back in quite a while. So kind of home is where you hang your hat kind of thing. But we love being overseas. We love the ministry God's given us and the people that we get to work alongside. It's an amazing life.
Man, that's awesome. So tell us a little bit about your book, man.
So my book's called Letters to an Apprentice, A Culture of Mentorship. And it's, the reason I wrote it was because a big part of my job is mentoring young people, young missionaries that come to the field, young singles that come and join us for short periods of time. And in the process of doing that, I find that about 80% of them, this is their first real mentorship experience. And it just breaks my heart thinking that as the church that we have completely abandoned this thing that was so central to the early church and their expression of the gospel and how it was so important to them to pass on things that they had learned to someone else, and to the young people within their church and the people who they were discipling and mentoring. And so I guess I got to kind of a point where I had been doing it for many years, and I thought, you know what, there may come a time where I leave the field and I want to be able to continue equipping people to disciple others and to mentor people and to help them to grow, specifically new missionaries. And so I thought, what better way to do that than to write a book that I can get in the hands of people. The other side of this is that I think a lot of my experience, a lot of the reason that I'm on the mission field now is because of the mentors that poured into my life. And this is kind of part of my way of paying them back and saying, hey, I want you to know that the things that you taught me, the things that you invested in me were not in vain. I'm passing them on to others. And I have a theory. I always say that I want to be a funnel and not a cup. I want the people that pour into me, I don't want it to just stop with me and just fill my cup and overflow. I want to be a funnel. And as people teach me and train me, I want to be able to pour that immediately into the people that are in my life, mentoring them, discipling them. And so I guess that's kind of the motivation behind why I decided to write the book.
Man, that's so great. And having a background in ministry myself, it's super easy to get caught up in the programmatic idea and have a funnel of people, but not really have a culture of mentorship. And so what kind of drew that in you? I mean, is that just, obviously you're a missionary on the mission field, but do you have any key mentors in your life that have really spoken into you that have really emphasized this point for you? And can you tell me a little bit about them?
I think that, that's part of what I write about in the book. A good portion of the book are letters that I've constructed. They didn't write to me, but I take the things that they taught me, the ways that they invested in me, and I basically compile it into a concise letter. And I try to write in their voice, which was a lot of fun. Just trying to remember the things they said and the way that they said it. It brought back some amazing memories. But as I was writing it, just trying to portray the things that they poured into me, the things that they taught me in a way that was concise, but then also to break it down for whoever may be reading the book and say, okay, these are the things that had an impact on me. Here's how you can do this too, And so I think there's like 15 or 16 different mentors that I mentioned in the book. And each one of them, I give some context. I say, listen, this is where I was in my life whenever this person was there. These are the things that I was struggling with. This is kind of how old I was, what was going on. I was in school, whatever. And then I also, let them walk through the letter, and I talk about specifically how those specific things impacted my life and how I continue to use them today. And so, right now on my Facebook, I'm doing a series where every day I'm posting one of the mentors that I wrote about in my book. I'm posting their picture, and I'm also posting just a little bit of information about them. And I'm encouraging other people who've been influenced by that person to also share their stories. And it's been really awesome to see because like one guy, he was my preaching professor. His name is Dr. James Shields. I posted his like 2 or 3 days ago. The responses were in the hundreds.
Wow.
Hundreds of people were impacted by this guy's life. And every one of them, most of them were preachers who've impacted hundreds of others. And it's just really cool to see how the obedience of one person can have an impact on thousands of tens of thousands of people, just because one person decided to invest in some young people and make a difference.
Man, that's so true. I mean, I remember, we were talking about our mutual friend, Jonathan Williams, who's also an author with Lucid Books, and he's a pastor. The gentleman who pastored before Jonathan, Rodney Wu, was a professor of mine in seminary and had a profound impact on myself and my ministry, and continues to today, even though we don't have regular contact, but he's one of the many that influenced me and really had profound impact, not only the formation of my faith, but my view of ministry, my view of discipleship, my view of the Word of God. And so, that's such an important thing, and such a joy, not only to have received mentorship, but also to see the impact of investing, as feeble as our attempts may be at times, but being intentional about cultivating that kind of relationship with others. And so what are some common misconceptions or misunderstandings, or maybe even myths around the idea of mentorship that you find?
I think the biggest one is that all mentors, they kind of put it in a box and say, this is what a mentorship relationship looks like. This is what a mentor looks like. And we just kind of pigeonhole everybody into that. And in the book, I opened it up to 5 different types of mentors that we have. Some of them are short-term, some of them are long-term, some of them are very personal, some of them have different ways of impacting us and changing our lives. But I think oftentimes people that we encounter, people that we interact with, we oftentimes don't recognize them as mentors until 10 years down the road. And then we're like, well, if I would have known what I know now, I would have invested more in that relationship. I would have considered them a mentor then, so that I could ask the questions that I need to ask. I could, kind of dig in and get to know more about the things that they could teach me. And so I think that one of the things I deal with in the book is trying to help you to find mentors all around you that fit different molds. They're not all going to be somebody who wants to sit down with you and over coffee and read the scripture together. Like, that's one kind, but there's many, many different kinds of mentors and many different ways for people to impact your life. And so I think that, one of the things that also kind of compelled me in this book was this concept of the culture of mentorship. And, with working within the IMB, they are serious about mentorship. And, it's a major push in everything that we do, is making sure that our young missionaries get mentored. And, but one of the things that's hard to reproduce is that culture. You can have 2 or 3 really good mentors who are doing a great job with the people that they have. But what our organization is trying to do is trying to create a culture of mentorship, so that everywhere we go, we're always thinking about, how can we pass this on? How can we pass this on to the Ugandans that we're working with, or to the Sudanese refugees that we're with? How can we pass this on to the young missionaries? And just so that everything that you do is encompassed in the thought process of, like, how do I pass this on to the next generation? Don't let it die with me.
Yeah. No, it's so important, man. So what are you hoping the reader, as they read through this and they read these letters that from your mentors and all this, what are you hoping that your reader's going to experience and take away from this?
I hope that, and in fact, I actually had a conversation with somebody today online who was talking about how he was just trying to find a young man to mentor. And so I talked with him a little bit about the book, and I think that my conversation with Jody today really kind of encompasses exactly what I'm wanting to happen. I'm wanting them to read the book and to get inspired and say, I can do this. I can find somebody to mentor. And what happens usually, and I've read about this quite a bit in other forums, but what usually happens with that is whenever you find somebody to mentor, within the first couple of months, you realize, I'm out of material. I ain't got nothing else to teach them. Like, I'm done. And so then in a panic, you begin looking for a mentor yourself.
Right.
And then you get into a situation where basically you have both a Paul and a Timothy in your life, and where all of those people are being blessed. And that's really what I'm wanting to see. You know, this art form of mentorship has been lost to the modern church. It's been lost. Like, we're not doing it. We're not raising up new believers. We're not mentoring them and discipling them in ways that actually help them to feel like that they've been formed into the faith. And so my desire is to wake everybody up and say, listen, let's get back involved in this. Let's learn how to do it in the way that the early church did it, because it seemed to work very well for them. You can see the passion that the early church had, specifically during the first 3 centuries. Just the passion to do whatever it took to take the gospel to those who haven't heard. One of the reasons why we don't see that today is because we're not passing on that passion from one generation to the next. We're making each generation have to rediscover it for themselves.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think that we've lost the art of mentorship? What's happened, do you think?
You know, you see Jesus, whenever he left, what did he tell us to do? He told us to make disciples. He didn't tell us to plant churches or to, make converts. He was like, make disciples, because he knew that's where the hard work was. And that's life on life. And I think that specifically in America, it's difficult because we're so private, we're so individualistic, and true mentorship requires some level of vulnerability and transparency, and spending life with each other in some way, form, or fashion. And that makes us uncomfortable. But I think a lot of it can be solved with just kind of getting over the fear of it and starting to have some of these relationships. Because whenever you do have a good mentorship relationship, I think there's this misconception that means that they get blessed and I do all the work. So right. I work and they get the benefit from it. As you begin to do that, you realize that it's not just for them. Like, you can also benefit from it as well.
Absolutely. So how do you feel like your book's going to be most helpful?
The last portion of the book, we start off by basically saying, let's figure out where you're at. Where are you right now in your mentorship journey? Have you never done it? Have you never received it? Have you never been mentored and you've never mentored someone else? Have you been in some mentorship relationships that seem kind of forced, but not really beneficial or helpful? Like, where are you? And we'll kind of do kind of an inventory and say, okay, where am I? And then from there, we kind of jump off from there and say, okay, if this is where you are, this is where you need to start. And these are the steps that you need to take to begin to have healthy mentorship relationships in your life. And even down to, like, these are the questions that you need to ask. This is the type of person that you need to look for. These are the things that you need to cultivate in your life so that you're ready for it. And I go down into very practical things so that you can kind of hold somebody's hand as they're beginning this process. Once they get started, and if it gets started in a good way, if it gets started in a healthy way, they won't need the book very much after that, because they will kind of know what to do. But I think most people are just fearful of those first steps. I don't know what to ask. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to even get this thing started. And so I think the most beneficial part of the book is that last section where we really kind of break down, this is what you do.
That's awesome, man. So tell me about the writing process for you. As you're putting this whole thing together, what was the most interesting thing that you learned about yourself in this process?
So my writing process is a little bit different because I've got 4 kids, and I'm a missionary, and I'm a supervisor, and I run a business. And so I'm sure, like many authors, I don't have a lot of spare time to just sit and write for hours. And so for me, it's usually early in the morning, late at night. And those are the times whenever it's really quiet in my house. And during this book, while I was writing this book, it was really interesting because I would just spend some time just kind of praying, preparing myself for it, and then praying for the person that I was about to write about and trying to remember the things that they taught me. And I think one of the things I learned most about myself in the process, as I wrote down those things and remembered the things, like how much of what I do now came from them. Like even down to phrases that I say, like missiological concepts that I hold. Like I think that you could break down most of what I believe and what I hold to be like really important, and you can assign a name to just about everything. And I guess I was surprised by that, because after you've done something for so long, it becomes you. It becomes part of who you are, and you're passing it on to someone else. But to be reminded as I was writing, no, Jay, this part of you, it came from them. Like they cultivated that in you. Like they poured into you. They helped you answer these questions in your life, and that's why you are the way that you are. And I think it was just really refreshing. It was really cool to see how God put those people in my lives at the right times to be able to prepare the ground for what I'll be doing now. And that there are people in my lives now that are preparing the ground for where I'll be in 10, 15 years. And so to me, I think that was the most surprising part.
Man, that's awesome. So what did you find, or what are you not very good at? I mean, you said you own a business, you're a missionary, you're an author, you're a dad, husband. So anything you're not, like, I'm not very good at basketball. I'm horrible at basketball. So what are you not very good at?
Bowling.
Bowling, huh?
I'm the absolute worst bowler on the planet. I took a girl on a date in college. And, you take a girl on a date, you're trying to impress her, right?
Yeah.
Bowling was a bad idea. I bowled a 27. And I was trying. Like, that's not good. A 27. And I've tried to redeem myself multiple times, and it always seems to happen in front of other people. And I can't, you can't bowl by yourself. And so I get humiliated every time I bowl. It's one of those Achilles heels for me,
yeah, man. My daughters, they use those bumper things, and they do pretty well, man. So next time you're in the States, we try some bumpers and see what happens, man. Maybe you get over 50 at that point. So so do you have any new projects you're working on currently?
I do, actually. I just started this week. Well, actually, it's a book that I've been working on for about 10 years. And back in 2003, I had an accident. And yeah, I mean, it was a pretty tragic thing. I was paralyzed from the waist down and had to deal with that, and still have to continue to deal with that. And in the process of recovering from that, the Lord taught me some really amazing things about the body of Christ. As my body was broken and I was trying to recover and get back to a healthy place, it was like the Lord just opened the doors of wisdom to me and said, listen, I want to show you some things about the church, about my body, and things that, some areas that it struggles, and really kind of redefined my purpose as a missionary. And so I started writing it, like I said, about 10 years ago. And just whenever I get inspired, I'll write a couple of chapters, and then, it'll kind of sit in the back shelf for a while, and then I'll bring it out. So with the process of Letters to an Apprentice, it was exciting. It was fun. I'm publishing my first book, and I'm like, all right, well, where's number 2, And so I have 3 projects that I kind of have been thinking about and praying about. And I put all 3 before my readers and my followers this week. I just had them vote on all 3. Like, which one do you guys want to hear about first? And this book about my accident in the church, they voted overwhelmingly for that book. And so I started this week. I downloaded a new program to work on this book, and hopefully it'll be fun. And
which one did you download?
Ulysses.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I've heard of Ulysses. I haven't worked on that one. So I've tried several of them.
I think the reason I liked it was because of the way I've written it over the last 10 years, it's really disjointed.
Yeah.
And the way that Ulysses works, it allows you to kind of move things around and
awesome.
piece them together. Really nice. And so I think it's really going to help me to kind of put it in a cohesive format.
Awesome.
So yeah, I started that a couple days ago.
Awesome, man. So when will you be back in the States?
I'll be back in the States probably early 2022.
Okay.
Unless this coronavirus, something happens where we're forced to come back in 2022. and we should be back for at least a year, and then we'll see
Awesome.
how things happen.
Well, that'd be great. So how can people keep track of you, catch up with you, follow you?
I'm on most social media platforms. I'm on Facebook. I have a Facebook authors page. I also am on Goodreads. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Instagram. I think that's everything. And I have a website. Our website's jtaliaferro.com. And on that website, I do all my blog posts and stuff. I usually post 3 times a week on the blog. And, sometimes I'm really consistent with it. And sometimes I skip a day or something. But I try to be.
That's the story of blogging, man. That's the story of blogging. So my favorite day to start blogging again's tomorrow. That's what I tell people.
It's always the best day.
It's always the best day. So, well, Jay, thanks so much for stopping by and for catching up with us. Blessings to you all. Stay healthy and safe. In Uganda, may the Lord continue to bless your ministry over there. And as Jay said, Jay Taliaferro, you can go find him there. He's also on Amazon, Goodreads. And so, yeah, Jay, thanks for stopping by, and can't wait for your next book also.
Thanks, Casey.